we continue our series from garden to glass, we are in downtown Guthrie to visit the state's first distiller to learn how WanderFolk is adding botanicals into their liquor. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hello.
So I hear you're the head distiller and head of spirits here. Maybe you can help me understand a little bit about some of the products that y'all supply and the botanicals that go into them.
I'd love to.
So tell me first what you guys do here at WanderFolk.
Well, here at WanderFolk, we distill. We are a distillery first and foremost. So distilling, you're making ethanol, right? So ethanol-based beverages like your vodka and gin, various types of whiskey. Basically, here in Oklahoma, we make anything we can from grain.
Okay.
Yep.
And you're making some of that from Oklahoma grain, or?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So we use rye sourced from here in Oklahoma, as well as barley right now, and also some corn.
Okay, very good. So you also, what really brought us here was the fact that you're infusing botanicals into some of your liquors. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Totally, yeah. So as a matter of course for a distillery, we have to make money, and so we need to sell things that don't take a lot of time to rest. Like a whiskey takes years and years and years, and so in the meantime, what we like to do is sell products that don't require aging, such as vodka.
Okay.
But we also make gin, as you alluded to. So gin does require some botanicals to give it some flavor, some character in a house style. So we have various botanicals that we use, and the types of gin that we make are classic, and then modern styles as well. And then training, like the education is like the best in the world that we can get. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So I know I always thought gin comes from juniper and vodka comes from potatoes. Is that true or not?
So yes, you are required to use juniper in gin. So if you don't like juniper, gin you might have trouble with. But on vodka, no, you don't have to use potatoes. That's probably a great marketing campaign from somebody in Eastern Europe. But vodka can be made from anything. So our vodka is made from 100% corn. Obviously, that's a staple crop for the United States, so it makes sense. But it can be made from anything from fruit or any other type of grain. And then gin, as you alluded to, has to be made from juniper. But we can also throw in some other botanicals. And so the juniper can be a huge part of that ingredient list, or it can be reduced to just a small portion, and then you can throw all these other botanicals in there, maybe a lot of citrus or floral aspects. Things to almost go with the juniper that might make it taste almost not like juniper at all.
Okay, so and all of those go through the same kind of distilling process that beer goes through initially. Is that correct, or? So
beer doesn't get distilled. Beer is fermented.
Okay, sorry.
But distillates are also fermented just like beer is.
Okay.
So all distillates start out as a beer or a wine in the instance of brandy, right?
Okay.
So we just want a sugar source. We're going to throw some yeast at it. The yeast eats the sugar, and you have alcohol, CO2, and heat as a byproduct. And as distillers, our job is to concentrate those ethanols, that alcohol, and separate it away from the solids and the color. And so what we're doing is, in distilling, just in a very, very brief synopsis here, we take beer, we put it into a pot, we heat it up, and then we collect the hot vapor that is expelled, similar to like a tea kettle ejecting steam out of the little whistle.
Okay.
We collect the steam and we allow it to condense into a liquid, which is a higher concentration of ethanol and some flavor.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so then at what point do the botanicals go into this process?
So after we do that first distillation where all the grain and everything is separated from the actual concentrated alcohol, we'll take the alcohol and blend it with some botanicals at about it'll be like a 50% alcohol, 50% water. And then we'll actually put the botanicals, allow them to steep for about 24 hours, and then we'll redistill that again. And so you're essentially making essential oils that are solved or they're with an ethanol solvent.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So there's a whole recipe, I would imagine, just with the botanicals. Walk us through that process of how you came up with some of your different recipes.
You got it. So as we said earlier, gin, you have to use juniper. And so it was only a question of how much juniper do we want to use, and at what part of the process in distilling do we want to add the juniper. And so we throw the juniper into the recipe. We'll say Garden Society, right? So for Garden Society gin, we wanted to make an American style gin, or what we call a contemporary gin, something that's not as in your face with the juniper. So we reduced the juniper to about 10% of the total ingredients list. And I wanted to throw some things in there that I really kind of personally liked. So I like black pepper in my distillate. And so I found a pepper. It's grown in Tasmania. It's called mountain pepper. It's very, very interesting. It's not been used in distillates that I know of. We had to get FDA approval to actually use it even.
Does it smell? Can I smell it?
It does. But actually you might want to crush it up a little bit to actually get a really nice smell. And I'm going to grab a couple others here too.
But it just looks like peppercorns, so.
Yeah. So in Tasmania, this is almost like a black pepper substitute for them. We don't think it's cultivated. I'm pretty sure it's all harvested wild. Right now, I don't know that it's even been attempted to cultivate it.
Okay.
But also, we use some citrus notes. So for our citrus, we wanted to use orange peel, lemon peel, and yuzu powder.
Okay. Yuzu powder. Is that what this is here?
Yeah. So these, you can see these are dried peels of lemon and orange. And then this is a powdered peel of yuzu. And yuzu is like a Japanese citrus. So has a nice like floral note to it. I don't really know how to describe it. It just smells like dessert. It smells like a lemon bar. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, it has kind of a lemon cake smell to it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, orange and lemon. So all three of those make this really nice example of citrus in the gin. And that's the Garden Society gin is a very citrusy gin.
Okay.
And then we'll also use, I forgot to mention this earlier, but this is actually lavender that was harvested and grown here in Oklahoma. So this lavender was actually, this is this year's crop. So this comes from the Pauls Valley area. Really, really nice stuff.
Very nice, yeah.
So the floral, the citrus, the pepper, in with your traditional gin flavor, that's really what makes Garden Society.
Okay.
That's that style, if that makes sense.
So kind of a fresh summer flavor, I would think, with all the citrus.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's not as much like baking spice in that one.
Right.
But the other gin that we make, I'm going to set these to the side if that's okay. So the other gin we make is called Prairie Wolf. And so we've been making Prairie Wolf for 10 years. This has been something that we've been producing for quite some time. But this one was actually recently adjusted. The botanicals were adjusted. We included an additional baking spice element. So this is more of like a traditional, a lot of juniper in there, but the juniper is it's the best juniper we can buy in the world. It's from northern Italy, from Tuscany. We use cardamom. If you're familiar with cardamom, it's got this really nice like light menthol note to it. And then coriander, tons and tons of coriander. So for like a coriander citrus note. And then licorice root and angelica root.
So a little more hit you.
Yeah.
Your flavors.
Yeah, a little bit more punchy. But yeah, the juniper berries, which I haven't brought it down yet, and I don't know why, but these juniper berries, I mean, what you're looking for is like, for a juniper berries, you want consistency of color, which we have throughout the batch here. And then we're looking for them to just kind of break apart really easily with your fingers. And on the inside, you can see there's a little bit of like a shiny like sap substance. That tells you have a good moisture content. They were picked fairly freshly. That's what you have to have for good.
So that's the oils in there that are going to be steeped out and then distilled out.
Totally, yeah. So you are making basically like a alcohol essential oils. So it's almost like a perfume you can drink.
Okay. Well, and do you have a third one?
Oh yeah. So we also, for the folks that aren't super into juniper, I made this gin that's not a gin. Okay. So there's no juniper was harmed in the making of this. But we use California lime peel, a lot of this Tasmanian pepperberry again, and then lemon verbena, which I'm sure you're familiar with lemon verbena. But it's one of my favorite things to distill with. It really doesn't take much. And I mean, who? So
it's the leaves that you're using.
Yeah, it's just the leaves. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things. Anyway, so very, very simple recipe for this, and it's fantastic. It goes any cocktail you would put gin in, you can just replace it with this.
Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I think it's fascinating how you're using Oklahoma products through the fermentation and this distilling to create an Oklahoma product right here in Guthrie. Thank you all for sharing this with us.
Thanks for coming and visiting.
We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.